Hello and welcome to the Serious Games Podcast, all about playful methods for interactive trainings and facilitation. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Serious Games Podcast. Today I'm connected with Jed and Sophia Lazar, and they have a brand new game. In fact, you can't even buy it yet, but we'll learn all about it. And what was interesting when we talked a couple of weeks to prepare this podcast, both of them said, this game is really there to help you to have constantly awesome conversation with friends, and I'm looking forward to fully understand how you guys are doing this and what the game Cozy Juicy Real is all about. Jet, Sophia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And let's get started with the two, let's say, typical questions I always ask my guests. So please do introduce yourself to our listeners. And what's your, let's say, 33-second pitch for Cozy Juicy Real, someone who's never heard about your game?
Thank you, Julian. Well, you did a really good job actually explaining the game, but I'm going to let Jed do another one after this. My name is Sophia. Thanks again for having us here today. A quick intro for me. Well, it's a bit tricky. I've got a very diverse background, so it's not kind of a one-word answer. But my background is in visual effects. I worked in digital animation and commercials and movies for many years. And then I retrained as a yoga teacher and a nurse. And I practiced that for a long time because I have a huge interest in humans and health and well-being. And meanwhile, I've always been interested in coaching and trained as a coach and facilitator. But yeah, and now I am the co-founder of Cozy Juicy Real, along with Jed.
I am, you can tell from my accent, from the States.
Mm-hmm. I can.
Yeah, pretty obvious. So I'm from Salt Lake City. I lived in Portland, Oregon for a long time. And my background is mostly in business and sustainable business. That I was always interested in how I could do good with business. And so that's actually what I studied. I got an MBA in sustainable business, and I had a business in Portland, Oregon for 6 years, delivering organic soups by bicycle. So we did that for 6 years. We had 130,000 deliveries by bicycle, and then sold that company. I went abroad for a trip, met Sophia, and now we live in Valencia, Spain.
That sounds also very lovely. Yeah, wonderful. So what's your pitch? I, already spoiled that you developed this game. And how would you explain it to someone, who either reaches out or gets to know you guys and just has 33 seconds?
All right, I'm going to start the timer.
Go. So it's a way to connect. It's a way to have better conversations. So whether it's with people that you already know really well, or it's with people that you want to get to know better, it's an easy, organic way to get to know people beyond the chit chat, because it's so easy to get stuck there, right? And we all want to have a good time when we spend time together, and we all want to get to know each other on a deeper level. I think we all want to have more meaningful relationships. So this is a tool to do that.
All right, wonderful. Well, thanks. And we're going to deep dive into how it works and what do you prepare, but what do you need? How many people? Is that a team? Is that a full hall, a town hall full of participants? Walk us just a little bit through the settings that this game could be applied in.
Great question. So you mentioned that the game is not yet accessible as a physical board game. However, we have been facilitating online events for the past 2 years. And we have found from our experience, so we do facilitate games, and we say that teams of even as low as 2 or 3 can play, and up to 12 people can play. But the sweet spot is between 4 and 6 people. And the reason we say that is because we found that people tend to feel more comfortable, more vulnerable, more trusting in a slightly smaller group, but it still has a nice tempo to the group. So we would say groups of around 4 or 6 is perfect. And right now we can host up to 500 people, and we use the magic of breakout rooms to send people on their way. They can play the game and experience it that way.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. And, already ticking off a couple of, logistic questions. For how long does the board game? And again, we're gonna. I can actually add some pictures to the podcast, or of course, I want to link to your website and to that crowdfunding campaign that's coming up. But how long would those 4 to 6 players ideally play and get to know each other?
Usually around an hour and a half. It depends how chatty people are.
Yeah.
It's true.
So an in-person game, I'd say an hour and a half to 2 hours. An online game, anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes.
All right. Okay. So, logistics, a few ticked off already. But let's go back in time, because you mentioned you started experimenting with that game dynamics, with that idea, like many, many years ago. Can you just share a little bit, who had the idea, and was there a specific occasion or a moment where you said, aha, this is what we need. We need a game to do X, Y, Z. So how did it evolve?
So, back in 2016, we recognized in our own lives that it wasn't always easy to have meaningful time together. Even with close friends, it was always sometimes you kind of have those regular updates, and you would leave the night and be like, God, I didn't really find out that much about them. It was like, Netflix, diets, kids, work. And we were walking home one day, and an idea kind of sparked just in conversation, which was quite unrelated actually. It was about an app of how can we give people fun and interesting ideas to connect that's not just watching another movie or just having the same old chit chat. And one of the ideas for that app was a conversation game that took you on a journey to kind of deepen your relationship in a fun, easy way. And we didn't know all the mechanics. There was no ideas on that. It was kind of okay, where do we start? And we literally started with a piece of paper and, questions on cards. And Jed actually played it for the first time, and it apparently went horribly. But, there was feedback. It was something to work with.
Right, absolutely.
So we made another iteration, and we played and played and played, and got so much feedback, so many ideas from people that we kind of went with the kind of lean model of just playtest and prototype. And then, we were doing this part-time, I should say, that we were doing this while we had our full-time jobs. So it was every few months we'd come back to it. But I'd say after the 2 to 3 years of, playtesting here and there and making something different, that people started asking us how do we get this? And I really want to copy. And sometimes we'd playtest with strangers who had no idea that we were the creators. And they'd be like, I've never heard about this game. Where can I buy it? And we were like, okay, this is a good sign.
Absolutely.
And that's when we kind of explored it even more.
Wonderful.
Do you want to add anything?
No, that was great.
Okay. But yeah. And did you, you playtest and feedback, I understood that, but did you guys do all the design yourselves, and did you come up with a name, or was that a different marketing journey that you got on?
That was definitely just the two of us.
Mm-hmm. And it was painful.
It was painful because it was so slow. Because like Sophia said, this was a passion project. We were working, and this was just something that we could do when we had time. It really helps that Sophia has a background in design. So when we had time, we could update the design and, talk about how the marketing might go, or work on names and the different questions in the deck. That takes a ton of time. But yeah, it's all the two of us.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's deep dive into what it looks like. Okay. So I understood sweet spot, 4 to 6 players. They're sitting or standing around a table. And there is, of course, we're going to talk about the online version and the 500 scaled version. Let's think of an in-person meeting. So there's the board. And what else do they need? What do you need to know for a setup? So before they start.
I don't know if there's anything else you need. I think usually imagine, yourself meeting up with friends at their home around some glasses of wine, or at the local pub over a few beers. And then the time to play. That's really it.
I would just add the willingness to play.
Okay.
And the willingness to open up a bit, maybe more than you normally would.
Okay, great. So we have our favorite drink. We are willing to open up, and then we unpack the box and walk us through the materials that that we're looking upon that will be at the disposal of the players.
Great question. So there will be a rules book.
Yes.
And in that rules book will also be a QR code so people can scan that and watch a video instead of the rules. Because we currently have a video that teaches the game in under 4 minutes actually. And people can play usually with just that. So we want to keep it easy and sweet. So that will be in the box. And then there will be a board, like a classic board game board. Where people can put the card decks on. They'll have little counters. They can choose a counter for themselves, like Monopoly. Put them on the start space, and then they're good to go.
Okay. And I understood this name, like Cozy, Juicy, Real, relates to specific, is it like buckets or types of questions, right?
Exactly. And there are a few others we probably need to share as well.
Right. So when we started the development way back 6 years ago, there were just 3 different decks of cards. Level 1, level 2, level 3.
Okay.
It was really basic. Over the years, it's developed into those 3 card decks are now Cozy, Juicy, and Real. So that's where the name comes from. And then we have 2 other decks, the Random deck and the Lightning deck. So Cozy, Juicy, Real, the Cozy deck is the questions that everybody starts the game with, right? So those are super easy to answer. They're like a way to dip your toes into the experience.
Okay. Like, what's your favorite color? Or...
No, more interesting than that.
Okay.
They're a little bit beyond chit chat.
All right, there you go. So share a couple of questions with us. Or look, I can even, if you provide me with 1 or 2 cards or questions, I can even show a picture then in the podcast.
Oh, that's
for
a fun idea.
some listeners that works. But what type of questions are we talking about in the Cozy area?
So what's something you love and something you don't love about your hometown?
Okay. Without your hometown. Okay.
Yeah. So something everybody can relate to, everybody can answer. Everybody has things they love and don't love about their hometown. So you're sharing a little bit more than you would in chit chat, but it's still very easy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's like coffee and broccoli for me. Huh?
I do not know what you mean.
Like coffee. Yeah, I love coffee, but I don't like broccoli.
In your hometown specifically?
Oh, no, in my hometown. I thought, except your hometown. In my hometown. Oh, my God. In Berlin. Well, I do like the Saturday market. It's nice. It's nice not to be tourist. And something I don't like here is, way too many cars and bad, bicycle lanes and streets. That's annoying. Mm-hmm. Oh.
I didn't know that. I like both of your answers.
Okay, so that's cozy. And the coffee and the broccoli, right? So that's a bonus information no one wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Juicy. What's the I watched the video, of course, and you say they're a little bit more juicy. So what type of question were you packaging here?
So a juicy question is a chance to share a little bit more about yourself. And of course, everything's gamified, right? This is a game, there's points involved. So you get more points for answering a juicy question and then even more points for answering a real question. Do you have a juicy question that comes to mind?
I like the question, what's something in your room that's meaningful to you?
Oh, that's meaningful. Okay. Does it have to be the room that I'm now in? Because we just moved and this is really...
It could be something you're wearing.
Good point. Well, I do have a bag. Shout out to Freitag from Switzerland. I'll link them in the show notes. But I do have a bag that I bought when I was living in Switzerland. And it's been so many years, and it's very robust bag, and I just like to keep it. Yeah, that's a nice memory. Yeah,
I imagine it reminds you of your time there.
It truly does. It truly
And
does.
so I don't know if now's a good time to introduce spark cards, but I have a
Yes, the spark cards. I mean, look, we're jumping, but I will make sure that we have a picture and that we link to the video so that everyone understands. They're cozy. There's a deck with cozy questions. There's a deck with juicy questions. And Sophia, you mentioned the spark cards. So every player seems to have some spark cards.
Yes. So everyone begins the game with a set of spark cards, and they each do a different thing. And the reason I wanted to introduce them now is because I have a go deeper question for you. So I'll quickly overview the spark cards. They're kind of one of my favorite parts of the game, but they're ways to interact and spark more conversation and interaction during the game. So there is the go deeper card, and that means you can ask 1 or 2 follow-up questions. And when I give you that card, you get points. Okay. There is a what about you card, which means if I wanted to ask Jed the same question, I could ask him the same question. There's a what about me, because if I'm like, oh, I have a really good story I want to share or something,
Okay.
then I can give myself points and share.
Nice.
There is a high five, which is basically a high five. If you appreciate someone's answer, you can give them a high five. And there are 2 others, courage and a hug card. And a courage is for when someone shows vulnerability in any way. You can give them that card to say, that's a courage. You deserve more points for that. And that is worth more points. And the hug card. If anyone shares something, you're like, I want to give you a hug.
Yeah.
You can give them a hug card. And it's funny because we actually introduced that card quite recently, the hug card. And we watched people play, strangers, and when they would give the hug card, they would literally get up and hug each other. It was the best thing. And multiple groups did this. It was like amazing how a card gives you permission to do that, to cross a barrier.
And I understand that every player starts with this set of spark cards. So I have my own, you have your own, Jed has his own. Okay, and then we can pass them along. Okay.
Yeah. And
wow.
like I said, they're worth points. But if you don't use them, at the end of the game, you get docked points.
Oh, okay.
There's an incentive.
Yes, there's a big incentive, right? Because we'll come to the game mechanics and who will win and the points later. But I understand that's definitely an incentive to pass along a hug and a go deeper question.
Yeah. So can I ask a deeper question?
Yes, of course. That's interesting. Look, you listeners have to know that Sophia and Jed and we can see each other. We're not recording the video though. They're not showing me the card, but I clearly hear and see and sense that you guys have developed this game. What's your go deeper question, Sophia?
Okay, you're getting 20 points for this. The go deeper question is, I'm curious because I didn't know you lived in Switzerland. Like, what took you to Switzerland?
Yes, so it was work. It was right after I finished working for a private university here in Berlin, looking for another job. And I did apply for a marketing job at the University of St. Gallen. That's in the eastern part of Switzerland, right? And then I got a call from my boss. To be for the career services center. In fact, they were that was my background. I was doing coaching and bridging let's say the students and the graduates, making it easy for them to enter the job market. So I then got a call from him, then I met him twice, I think, met the team, and I started working as a manager, corporate relations for the University of St. Gallen. Did that for about 3.5 years. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, and one thing you loved about Switzerland?
Is that another card or just
No, I get two.
because you invented the game, right? Unlimited spark cards. Okay, so one thing I loved about Switzerland.
Yeah.
Wow. Look, I mean, I came from Berlin and then I also returned to Berlin. So, of course, Switzerland was all about nature. We were, so close to Lake Constance, which is, I bought my scooter down there. Still have it. But, it was just great to, right after work, get on the scooter, ride for, 25 minutes, be at the lake or in the mountain. So that was just very, very nice and very relaxing. Yeah.
That sounds great.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So these podcast episodes, the last ones that I'm doing, they really become like interactive podcasts, right? So, let's continue with the fourth set of cards. Okay. So we got cozy cards and questions, obviously. Juicy cards and questions. We got the spark cards to go deeper, the hug, and the showing courage. You get points when you answer, and you don't get points when you pass them along. But hold on, everyone has one, so most likely I will also receive one, right? And then I get some extra points. Okay, got you. And then we have the real cards and the real questions. What are they about?
So the real questions are continuing along the progression from cozy to juicy to real. So they're a chance to share even more about yourself, right? And so their questions, a lot of the game is based in our coaching background, and we actually didn't talk about that in our introduction. So we took a 3-year course in neurolinguistic programming, and one of the core elements of the game, the cozy, juicy, real decks, are based on something called neurological levels. And without going into all the details of neurological levels, the idea is that as you're sharing from cozy to juicy to real, you're tapping into different parts of the identity and different parts of the personality.
Okay, got you.
So as you move into the real deck, then you're touching on things that are like the most meaningful for us. So things like belonging, things like identity, things that when we think about our stories that we tell ourselves that have like our rooted stories, our beliefs. That's what the real deck is about. An example. Something like, what's something in your life right now that you're appreciating, and what about it is meaningful for you?
Okay. So then I would, more talk about personal things like my marriage and my family. Okay. That's good.
Random is the last.
Yeah, I was wondering, right? There was one more, and random cards are group challenges, correct? How do they work? How do they work? Just walk us through.
So we introduced random cards because quite early on we actually did some research at the beginning as well. Like once we started prototyping, we also started asking people, what makes a conversation great? What makes it less great? We observed conversations that were great. And we found that play and like kind of what's the word? Like an undulation of like emotions in a conversation were really important. So some laughter, some serious, some, more touching things, light things. And so we introduced random to kind of shake up the energy. So it was like not to always be talking about like things that are getting deeper and deeper and deeper, but to kind of like spice it up with something different. And so, random cards are group challenges, activities, speed rounds, and they kind of get the group involved. So an example might be, rather than a meaningful thing in your room, what's one of the strangest things in your room?
Okay.
And show that.
Oh my God.
Or a strange thing in your bag.
Yeah.
And show that to the group. And it doesn't mean about talking about it. It's really just kind of something different, makes you kind of move from your space. But yeah, just fun things.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my ironing board, which is really ugly and super old, right? I'm not going to show it now. Might take a picture for the podcast. All right, guys, look, I understood there are 5 sets of different type of cards, right? And how does the game and the flow moments? And again, you of course played it. I don't know if you stopped counting at one point, but several hundred times, and observed. the flow, the dynamics. What are some observations that you, let's say, typically make, right? Maybe, now we were just talking and you were mentioning that, strangers played it. Would you also, or have you also used it, let's say, in a more business setting with teams or maybe even for onboarding, or maybe you can also explain a little bit how the dynamics are there and what happens when people play for that 90 minutes.
So yes, we do a lot of team building and a lot of onboarding. Tomorrow we're doing onboarding for HubSpot teams all over the world. So that's really become unexpectedly what we do a lot of is team building and onboarding. For big companies like Nike and Adobe and HubSpot, but also small companies and startups and charities, and nonprofits and institutions and universities. So when we're hosting events online, sometimes we're in the rooms, and sometimes the players are in the rooms on their own. So, but we can see what's going on in the rooms, and I think that the magic, the flow, kind of happens. Well, I think between two things. One is as people work their way around the game board, right? You don't go straight to the real. That's one of the keys. Everybody starts on cozy, and so there's this kind of there's this slow deepening that happens as people are gaining trust. People are sharing a little bit about themselves more than they normally would, right? And then they see somebody else do that, and there's this thing called a vulnerability gap, so that when one person shares something a little bit vulnerable, then the other person feels this desire to fill that gap and share something a little more vulnerable. And so the game opens that vulnerability gap.
Right.
And it allows people to move together towards the juicy and then towards the real. So it's kind of happening in this way that people they get to a place where they're like, oh, I see you more as a person now. We might have used to, 30 minutes ago, you were my boss and I was the new guy. And now we're people. And so one of the main pieces of feedback that we get at the end of events, we have a big Miro board when we debrief events. One of the main pieces of feedback we get is just the word human. That it kind of, I think it takes away kind of the facades and allows us to see each other more clearly, and that freaks some people out. I think in a very traditional business sense, but I think in a lot of the new business world, this is exactly people are recognizing it's so important to bring a little bit more of ourselves and our personality to our work relationships.
Yeah, there are a lot of stats around feeling like belonging at work and being able to show up as your real self and on a more personal level has become huge. And we're seeing more and more like that there's like culture teams now specifically that focus on this rather than just HR. There's like people and culture. And yeah, super important. We spend so much time at work. It's crazy.
Wow. Sounds great. And look, we understood the materials, the playing, moving, from along the board. Is there anything, because you also shared that you have played this in a scaled version. Is there anything that needs to be actively facilitated by you, or is that just once it's running, it's running? You don't need to. You don't need a facilitator to play the game.
Well, we'll let you into a little secret. So far, we have felt it's been necessary to kind of facilitate the event, to ensure it goes smoothly, to learn, and to also be there for like support, like any questions that come up about the game or tech or whatever. But alongside doing that, we want this to spread further. We want people want it to be more accessible. And so we've been working on our own web app. So we've started working on that. We're really excited about it. And that would allow people to kind of play and self-facilitate their own games.
Okay.
We would still recommend having a host and having a facilitator for larger events, just based on our experience. We found that when there's a really large group, it's a little bit more complicated to manage. But also we found that when there is a facilitated event versus a non-facilitated event, especially for teams anyway, we found that people are more excited about joining because it's like this external thing coming in, and they're more excited about it. Attendance is higher, and there's kind of more engagement. So larger groups of around, like, I think beyond 30 usually, that's what we've seen.
Okay.
But yeah, we are excited about having a self-facilitated.
Okay. Got you. And yes, what resonated with me is, when you have a facilitator, someone or a team then is taking care of this safe space of the event, right? Which also needs a framing, and we're going to talk about, how you introduce the game and debrief the game. But then I normally say that a game, or a serious games in that matter, is a safe space within the safe space, right? So which makes us even more ready, maybe to show up as we are, to answer authentically, and then to move along the gameplay and the flow. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
I didn't really talk about that, I guess. I think currently what facilitation brings is setting the tone at the beginning. We do a check-in with everybody. And kind of get a pulse check of the whole group together before we open up the breakout rooms. And then when we bring them back from breakout rooms, we do a debrief, we do a checkout, which we do think is really important. And we want to, if we can, implement that into the self-facilitated version. But yeah, we do think that's a big thing.
Okay, got you. So still thinking about multiple groups now. They're playing in parallel, obviously. And so then after 90 minutes, I mean, is this then a highly time boxed setup? If you have multiple groups that you say, okay, in 90 minutes, you are asked, to count your points, because again, with every card is worth a couple of points, right? I mean, when I answer it, right? Can I, by the way, skip a card and say, no, I'm not going to answer that?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
That's a great question. It's really important.
Yes.
Because if you ever get a question, you can't think of an answer for it, or the answer is your ironing board, for example, then you might want to skip the card and go to the next one. So everybody can pass 3 cards in a game.
Okay. Got you. But then I wouldn't get any points in that round, right?
You can pick another card from the same deck.
Oh, okay. I can just pick another one and say, I'm not going to talk about my ironing board. I'm going to talk about my cat, which I don't have. So after 90 minutes, look, because there are points, which means either when the time is up or when, the first player reached, the end of the board, there will be a winner. And are the others considered losers then? Or how do you deal with that dynamic? Because, now we're 6 people at our table and someone did win. What about the others?
That's a good question.
It is a good question.
And people sometimes ask about that because, when you are playing an online game, especially if you're hosting an online event for a big group, 50, 100 people, you're going to get a whole range of people. And some people really care about the points. They're really competitive, especially something about games, something about board games. It really gets people into this competitive mode, which is part of the fun, I think. And it's part of what brings people into the experience. That's part of what makes serious games work, is there's this competitive element. Yeah. And so I think that what we've heard from people who play is that even the competitive people, they tend to really care about the points at the beginning, and they're doing the thing where they're really figuring out the strategy of how do you get ahead,
Oh, I've got this my spark card.
Yeah, right. They're doing it.
I'm going to go for the reel as soon as I can.
It's great. Typically, by the end of the game, they have settled into a different kind of headspace where they're still enjoying the points, and everybody has a chance to count the points and see who the winner is. But being a winner in Cozy Juicy Reel or being a loser, you might not be, taking the same check marks of, I'm ego. I did better than the other players that you might in a serious role playing game or something like that.
Okay,
gotcha. We actually often hear people say, we're all winners.
There you go.
Because you're all learning about each other and having fun and having a good time. So
absolutely. And that's what I understood. So, while sharing, seeing the human on the other side, while getting to know each other, having those meaningful conversations. I mean, obviously the players are invited and most likely will discover more about themselves. But what happens when you debrief such a, one group or multiple groups? What are things that you like to, either reflect on or ask about? And what are things that just emerge from, the players?
So, because the game experience is so meaningful for people, and we often hear at the end of a game, we wish we had more time. They just want to keep playing. So we try to maximize game time, and we feel like that is the biggest takeaway. After the game, we debrief. We typically we have 3 steps. One is kind of an emotional check-in. So at the very beginning of the game, we do a check-in, and then we do the same at the checkout. And the 3 kind of like touch points are: how happy are you feeling? How connected are you feeling? And how trusting or unsure are you feeling? So we ask that at the beginning, and everyone kind of moves their dots on a scale of 1 to 10, how they are on that scale. And then we do the same straight after the game. And we very gratefully see a very nice shift upwards. I would say 99% move up, which is wonderful to see. So that's the first part of the checkout. And then the second is we ask people, what are some appreciations you have for your team?
Okay.
So really bringing it to that team experience and for them to recognize like what they appreciated in that group. We found is really meaningful for them, because they also get to like, it's kind of extending the game in a way, but kind of allows people to see what other people thought during gameplay and what, be able to like reflect on themselves. And then the last question we ask is, what's a takeaway you have from this experience? And people often say things like, like people we're all more similar than we think we are. My co-worker is a human with stories and like, richness to their lives and things that they've never known before. That they've made friends at work now. It's like taking it to a different level. And like Judge said, the humanness, like humanity, and just, we're all human. And so that's a big one.
I was hosting a game for a team in London last night, and one of their main pieces of feedback at the end was everybody has struggles. Everybody's got something that we're working through, big or small. And I think that's really nice to see. It's easy to forget, especially when you're working remote, that we're all working through something. So good to see some. I love seeing that kind of feedback. It just reminds me of
empathy.
Yeah, empathy.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the big goals with this game is building empathy, building trust.
Okay, and so you're saying, or I hear that there's no other, let's say, reinforcement or translation into the day-to-day, the work-day needed? Or would that be, I mean, is there any other intervention or tool or method that you sometimes then use after playing the game?
I like that idea because it reminds me of something that from our coaching days of future pacing. How might you apply this to? So we ask for a takeaway from the experience, but we don't ask, and maybe we should. What's one thing you might do differently in the future based on this experience, something like that.
Okay, yeah, I like that question. Right, to also reflect on, trust building, empathy building, seeing the human, the struggles and the fun parts and their lives and stories. And then what do I take with me when I have the next customer call, when I'm writing the next email about that missed deadline to my colleague, right? So, maybe that's also something that could use some empathy and, seeing the human on the other side. Huh?
Something we do recommend, like a carry forward, is short check-ins and check-outs at every meeting. It's something that we do with our own team. It's something really simple, like what's something you're looking forward to this weekend? Or how are you feeling right now? Or what's a high and a low from your past week? So something that's still kind of like touching on the personal side of somebody, but doesn't necessarily have to take 90 minutes, but it's a way to kind of continue.
Yes, always a good reminder, that the personal also check in and check out. And it builds and adds up to, right? So every time you do it, it's a reminder that, oh, okay, great. Now I also get to check in with my team, even if it's shortly. I can share an emoji or a word or a little story or something that I liked about my week. Wow. So look, I mean, you already shared you can run this virtually. The technology is there. Then obviously the players would have like is it a special app, or do you just use any regular whiteboard out there to have the game areas? And how do you do that?
So right now we use Zoom and Miro, so the whiteboarding tool, which many companies are familiar with. And like I said before, we are working on our own web app, so we'll probably introduce that into the mix as well.
So here's the question, right? Because not everyone has a solution for that. How do you do the cards on a Miro board? Do you just stack them upon each other, and then you just draw one, and then it reveals the next one, or how do you do that?
There are two ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we've done both. One is, like you just said, stack them up. You have a front and a back, and then you get rid of the front and it reveals the back of the card. The other way is if you have a 2-page PDF, you can flick through to the second page, and then you see the second page as a card, which is kind of like flipping a card.
Yeah, and much easier to maintain and to, you only have to create it once and you can duplicate it. That's what we all love about those whiteboards. But okay, good. The cards, they play, breakout rooms, they come back, there's a debrief. All right, understood. And what is your, and again, there might be groups that you do facilitate, you recommend when they get larger. What is your ultimate facilitation tip? Now, this is a classical question on this podcast. It does not have to be solely, focused on the cozy, juicy, real game. It could be any overall ultimate facilitation tip that you can think of and want to share with our listeners.
So I'll go first. My ultimate facilitation tip is, of course, something that I am still working on. And that is to not take full responsibility for the experience.
Same thing.
That's so funny.
But I have others. Others.
because I have found that my tendency is to take responsibility, both as a facilitator and a coach and event host. That it's my responsibility to take somebody from A to B, and it's wonderful when that happens. But really, all I can do is be the guide. I can point the way, I can ask the questions, I can create the context, and then it's really up to the people. You can't drag somebody along a change process. It just doesn't work like that. It's too personal. And it's the same with teams. You can't drag a team along a team change process if they're not ready to go there. If they don't want to go there themselves, they just won't go. They're not ready. So I'm constantly reminding myself to take less responsibility. If a team shows up to an event and they've just gone through something really big, a series of layoffs, for example, or maybe somebody in the team had something going on personally in their lives and they're bringing that. There's so much that I can do. There's only so much I can do, and then the rest of it is really up to that person in the team to go at the pace that is right for them.
Gotcha. Oh, thank you. And Sophia, you had a similar one, you said? Or?
It was similar, but I will share a different one because I had two that came to mind, and I was like, which one do I choose?
You can choose both. You can share both. It's like a bonus ultimate facilitation.
Okay. Well, alongside that one, I think what it kind of pairs with it is to slow down and not rush and not feel like you have to stick to a plan, but being flexible and observe and just listen and taking away that responsibility, but also kind of knowing your responsibility of being a guide and like listening and not sticking to a rigid plan. Trust your skills. And then the second one that came to mind that was kind of, I think is also a big one, is being vulnerable. So, I mean, I think in any case, it's like not showing up perfect, because I think showing vulnerability allows other people to be vulnerable, and that's where change happens. Change happens when we recognize those like things that we want to work on and things that we want to kind of make better. So being vulnerable, but also being professional. I've definitely seen the far end of it where it's like, I'm not going to care about anything. And it's like, I trust you. So vulnerability and being professional at the same time.
Okay. Wow. Great. Thank you. And maybe, 3 more questions, right? So I understood it's about the questions and the conversations. Are there any other variations that you're thinking of, or can your game be played in any other way or for any other purpose? Have you seen any hacks already evolving?
We've been experimenting with lots of different versions of the game. And I mean, as you can imagine, when you do this, you get into it and you're like, oh, how else can we be doing this? What else can we be doing?
And so many people play it and they're like, oh, you should do this.
Yes. Yeah, we got contracted by somebody in Australia to build a not safe for work version.
There you go. Yeah.
Extremely not. That was fun. So yeah, right now we're working on 2 kind of expansions to the game for the physical game, and that's going to be like the spicy, definitely not safe for work version, and then the really real. So that's like the next level of questions. People already know each other well, or they just want to take it to the next level. But for online groups, for teams that want to play, we have loads of expansion decks that they can play. So after a team plays for the first time, then they want to play again, they can play the diversity, equity, and inclusion edition. They can play the creativity version for teams that are working in creative realms. They can do for leadership teams, leadership. And we have other games that are built around different themes like International Women's Day, LGBTQ, etc. So yeah, we've been working on that a long time, and those are super fun.
Wonderful. And I could even imagine, drawing a card. Yeah, just thinking out loud, right? Like during as a check-in, maybe, right? That could be like your check-in question. You don't have to build out a board and everything, but just let's start connecting and reminding us of the wonderful conversations, right? That we had. Wow, cool. So 2 more questions. What is your maybe that's a real question. What's your special experience with your game? I mean, what comes to mind, like a moment where you really said, "Oh, wow."
Oh, there's so many.
And from those many, the one that...
No. I'm not going to go into the context, but we played with somebody who shared something really vulnerable in a group that I think were complete strangers. I think we were all strangers. And it was really deep. There was crying involved. And after the game, they shared with us, thank you so much. I have never shared that with anyone in my life. And I've always wanted to. I always needed a space where I could do that. And this gave me the permission, this gave me the space to do it. And I felt heard and seen, like especially with Spark cards, it really helps to like be able to give those out and feel heard and seen. And so that really struck me as wow, like this could really help people, especially people that are like maybe close and have never shared things that they always wanted to.
I've got one that comes to mind as well. So we got hired for a company event, and it wasn't until the event date came that I realized that it was a family that worked in a company together. And this was a smaller event. They asked me if I would play with them, and so I was happy to. So we all played the game, and as it developed and they got deeper into the experience, there was a question that the son answered, and the question was something like, who's somebody who's had a positive influence in your life, and in what ways have they influenced you? And it was the son who answered this, and he shared that his mom, who was of course there, that she was one of the biggest influences in his life, the biggest positive influence in his life, and he shared how she'd influenced him, and she was really touched by that, because she didn't know. She had no idea. No one had ever asked that question before or held space in the same way. I don't know. But it was so cool to see a mother and a son connecting like that.
I mean, what teenager just comes out with that?
Yeah, he was a teenager, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was really meaningful. And then there's been very funny moments.
Yeah.
That I will say for another time. But we once played the game with, I think, 8 friends for 4.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
And we did not want to stop playing, but it just got to the point where it was like, okay, it's too late in the night. We need to get to bed. But it was great. That was very memorable.
Oh, it really sounds like we need to record a second edition continuing this conversation.
We just play.
So tell me now. I mean, you developed the game. You've seen it being played and used in so many ways with so many different human beings. In your words, what's the secret sauce of Cozy Juicy Real?
The secret sauce, or I guess a sauce has different ingredients. So,
well, again, as you can answer the question as you wish, right? So, is it one ingredient that makes it just work, or is it a combination of ingredients?
Definitely a combination.
It is, yeah.
And I think I have an answer on that.
It's kind of it's layers of tools that are built into the mechanics.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give it a shot, and then maybe if you want to add any ingredients to the sauce. But I think fundamentally the progression, the way we've set up the board, where you progress from cozy to juicy and to real, but also always having the option. So if you get to a real, you never have just a real space. There's always like cozy, juicy, and real. So if you're like, oh gosh, I just shared something really deep, now when I get lighter, you can just pick a cozy card. All good. So I think the progression is part of the sauce. The questions themselves, we spent days writing criteria around what is cozy, what is juicy, and what is real, and play testing questions and reiterating and rewording, like very picky. So the questions, the way they're written, definitely a part of the sauce. And the spark cards, for sure. I think having that is a huge part of what makes it work so well. We played so many question decks and we love them, but it's different. There's something different about it, and I think spark cards are a big part of it.
So it's a good question, and it's tough to answer. But I think what the secret sauce is the container.
That's true.
And a host, a facilitator can create space, can create a container. But our intention with creating this game is that the game itself could hold the container and help create the container as you're playing, from the experience of opening the box all the way through to the end, and then after the experience of playing as well. So when you're playing with somebody, obviously you're developing trust in that person. But part of the container is developing trust in the game itself. Developing trust that this game is going to ask questions that push me to share a little bit more than I normally would, but at the level that I'm comfortable with, right? It's not going to ask me crazy out there questions. It's not going to request that I do something that I'm really uncomfortable with. It's important that people are comfortable. So as you're playing, you're gaining trust in the experience, trust in the game. And that builds the container for the game as well as the players simultaneously.
So true. The game is a facilitator in a way. It's so true.
Lovely. Sounds very exciting, and thank you for wrapping this up and putting it into words for us, right? So that we understand it's definitely several ingredients that work together, that amplify each other, and that make those meaningful and authentic and fun conversations possible, right? Wow. Guys, here's my question. How can I get my hands on a version of the game? So is that something that's available? We call you and then you would invite, the players onto that mirror board, or is it a template in the Mirrorverse? And what about that board game that's been prototyped and used, and loop us in what's happening next on this journey.
Okay, you got to get ready to mark your calendars.
Okay.
March 28th, we're launching a Kickstarter.
Wonderful.
Okay, March 28th, we're launching a Kickstarter. We're very excited because we wanted to do this for about 3 years.
All right, so there will be the campaign, and then and that Kickstarter campaign is because the game is developed, right? That's for making this whole production process.
Exactly.
Setting it up, moving it. Okay.
When you come to the Kickstarter page, you will see options, and one of the main options will be to get the board game. So when you support us, when you fund, put some money in to get a board game, you will receive a board game. And we'll also have a couple of other options, like Jed said. One will have like the expansion deck, and you can choose which expansion deck you want, or both expansion decks. So there will be a few options on the Kickstarter page. But of course, because some people ask us, a Kickstarter, does that mean I just give money and then what happens? It's like, well, no, you will actually get the product, you will get the game, and we promise that.
Absolutely.
So that's the physical copy. And then for people who just want to play online with their teams, maybe they're working on a distributed team and they want to do something there, then that's something that they don't have to wait for. They can just schedule an event with us. And then the self-facilitated version, that hasn't been released yet. You're the first person to know that we've told.
There you go. Keep it a secret.
Depending on when they're listening, that may or may not be available. We're hoping for sometime late summer, early fall.
All right. No, we're definitely going to publish this recording before summer. But again, I can link everything that our listeners might find helpful to see you and the video explaining the game and your website and your Kickstarter campaign and of course your LinkedIn profile. So, as always, it's super easy to get in contact with our guests. Once you heard this podcast, you just, reach out, drop them an email, connect with them via LinkedIn. Wow. Jed, Sophia, thank you so much for sharing.
Well, it's been great to be here.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the great questions. Yes. Thanks for having us on the podcast. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Wonderful. And with that, again, have a look at the show notes. I think there's plenty in this episode in the show notes. And also listen to all the other episodes on the seriousgamespodcast.com. Till next time. Bye-bye.
You can reach us at hello@keylearning.net. We're looking forward to your suggestions, comments, and feedback.